So Jeb Bush is making news again. He has released a ad, which I don't. Can we say he released the ad because the ad is credited to a organization called the Right to Rise. So, I mean, does he have to endorse that ad, or save that? We'll get to there. The real issue in this ad is that at one point the narrator says he's a man of deep faith who fought time and again for the right to life. While he's saying that, in the ad there's a picture of Terri Schiavo. All right, so if you don't know about who Terri Schiavo is, she was from St. Pete, which is the next town over from me, and she went into cardiac arrest in 1990, February of 1990, and she suffered brain damage from the cardiac arrest. Irreversible. She was on life support and basically a vegetable the rest of her life. But she's famous because there's a court battle between her husband, who wanted to basically pull the plug, and in his view, give her the dignity of just passing on and not having to live in that state, and her parents, who absolutely refused to give in. They wanted to keep her alive, and this was a news case for many years. And then she finally, they did rule in the husband's favor in 2005 and allowed him to pull the plug. So in this video, Jeb Bush is supporting the parents who lost that court case. But it's kind of, to me, it's in poor taste.
My thoughts on the whole Terri Schiavo thing to begin with is, like, you basically said it. An adult, in the capacity that Terri Schiavo was in, obviously she might not have had all of her faculties to say yes, take my life, no, keep me alive, sort of thing. But at the same time, euthanasia is you need to look at it as it's compassion. First of all, she's not the Terri Schiavo that you remembered her as. Okay, and that's what's difficult for family members to comprehend, is that it's not the person that they are wanting to keep intact. In a lot of these cases where euthanasia is the option, where they're kept on life support in a vegetative state, so forth. And so it's really hard for them to let them go. It's hard to articulate how euthanasia should be a viable option, because I feel that it all boils down to compassion. But in regards to the Jeb Bush video, which again is a super PAC ad, is what it was. It was a political action committee that pulled it out. So he can't directly communicate with the super PAC, but at the same time, these super PACs get marching orders from individuals that perpetuate the vision of the overall campaign. So he does have some say in some sort of way, whether it's legal or not legal. He does have some say in it. So I think that it was in bad taste, and I think it was exploiting a tragic situation for political gain. He's suffering in the polls. He's not doing very well, and I felt that the way that he portrayed it, or the way that it was portrayed in this video, Terri Schiavo's situation, was in an effort to pander to the right to life crowd.
Right, and the whole thing was stating that he's the conservative candidate, the conservative you can trust, I think is how they put it. But what's also really interesting about the use of the Terri Schiavo case is that obviously Jeb Bush was the governor when this was all happening, but it was George Bush who actually denied the husband's motion to have the feeding tube removed, because he had basically won. He was going to get it out, and George Bush, as president, signed a executive order saying that no, she will stay, and then it had to go through. It went to the Supreme Court 4 times before they finally said. Anyways, back on topic. Yeah, poor taste. A campaign thus far that has been riddled with really terrible decisions, and a horrible relationship with the press. To me, this is the final straw. This is the Jeb Bush, you can't hack it. Maybe try again in 2020, but you need to drop out at this point, because you are humiliating yourself. And yes, you're creating buzz and conversation, but it's not the kind of buzz and conversation you need to A, overcome the deficit that you were in, and B, then become president over a Hillary or a Bernie.
Right. The problem with dynastic type politics, going off a name only, in the case of the Bush family, is that not all of them are good eggs. Okay, Bush, for all George Bush Jr. That is George W. Bush. For all of his faults, he had a certain appeal to him that people saw his viability as a candidate. Jeb Bush doesn't have that. I don't see him as a potential contender based off of his own demeanor. He doesn't have the political savviness to put forth a coherent campaign, and this shows it.
There's a big difference here, because if you look at Jeb Bush, you assume he's the smart one. He's the successful one that should be good at this. You look at Bush Jr., and he's the one that when he goes off script, when he stops saying what he's been told to say, you can kind of look at it and go, hey, he's a dumbass. That's obviously not what he meant. But when Jeb does that, it's just like, whoa, dude, what are you saying right now? Like, right. Back it up. Like, it's funny that he's clearly the smarter one. I guess with less personality is really what it comes down to.
Right, and yeah, he suffers from Romney syndrome in a lot of ways. That when he says something, it immediately sounds like pandering. That's when he's on script. When he's off script, it just sounds incoherent, in a lot of ways weak. He sounds weak. He does not sound like a professional candidate. So he's either pandering and exploiting tragic issues like the Terri Schiavo incident, or he's going off script and sounding less and less like a presidential candidate. So either way, he's not going to the White House.
If you like what you see, be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and our page polypompous.com.